History remembers thousands of Viking warriors, men who crossed oceans, burned kingdoms, and carved their names into history. But only one became a nightmare, not because he was the strongest, but because no one could predict his next move. Some believed he couldn't even stand on his own feet. Others believed he was born with a body too weak to become a warrior. And yet, this same man would command one of the largest Viking armies ever assembled, bring mighty English kingdoms to their knees, and leave behind a legacy that still terrifies historians over 1,000 years later. This is not just the story of a Viking. This is the story of Ivar the Boneless. Chapter 1. The Last Lesson of Ragnar. When Ragnar Lothbrok sailed to England for the final time, he already knew the odds. His army was too small, his enemies too powerful. King Ælla captured him. According to Norse tradition, Ragnar was thrown into a pit of venomous snakes. As death approached, he didn't beg, he didn't cry. Instead, he smiled and spoke the words that would echo across Europe. How the little pigs would grunt if they knew how the old boar suffers. Those words weren't for his enemies. They were for his sons, especially one, Ivar, because Ragnar knew something the world did not. His weakest-looking son would become his greatest weapon. Chapter 2. Was Ivar really disabled? The nickname Boneless has puzzled historians for centuries. Did it mean he suffered from a rare bone disease? Was he unable to walk? Or did boneless simply describe incredible flexibility or unmatched agility in battle? No one knows for certain. The medieval sources disagree. Some describe him as physically weak. Others describe him as an unstoppable commander. What historians do agree on is this: whatever physical condition he had, it never stopped him from leading armies, because Ivar fought with something far more dangerous than muscles: his mind. Chapter 3. The Making of a Strategist. Unlike many Viking warriors, Ivar wasn't remembered for charging first into battle. He watched, he listened, he studied his enemies. While others relied on brute force, Ivar preferred patience. He understood something many kings never learned. Winning a battle and winning a war are not the same thing. Every defeat taught him something. Every victory made him more unpredictable. His greatest weapon was never his axe. It was his ability to think several moves ahead. Chapter 4. The Great Heathen Army. In the year 865, England faced something it had never seen before. Not another Viking raid. Not a few longships searching for silver. This time, an army arrived. Thousands of warriors crossed the sea. They became known as the Great Heathen Army. Among its leaders were Ragnar's sons, Ubbe, Halfdan, and Ivar. According to later traditions, this wasn't simply another invasion. It was revenge. The death of Ragnar had united his sons. England was about to pay the price. Chapter 5. A kingdom begins to fall. The first target was the kingdom of East Anglia. Its rulers quickly realized they couldn't defeat such a force. Instead of fighting, they offered supplies and horses. It was a wise decision. The Vikings accepted, not because they had become peaceful, because they were preparing for something much bigger. The real war hadn't even begun. Chapter 6. The Road to York. Ivar understood one thing. If England was to fall, its strongest kingdoms had to fall first. The Viking army marched north, toward Northumbria, toward one of England's richest cities, York, known to the Vikings as Jorvik. At the time, Northumbria was already divided by civil war. Two rival kings were fighting each other. Ivar saw opportunity. He didn't create England's weakness. He used it. That single decision would change British history forever. Chapter 7. The City That Changed Everything. York fell with shocking speed. The divided English forces could not stop the Vikings. For the first time, a major English city was firmly under Viking control. This wasn't a raid anymore, this was conquest. And standing behind it was a commander many people once believed would never even survive childhood. The revenge had only begun. King Ælla still lived, but not for much longer. Chapter 8, The Fall of King Ælla, the Capture of York, was only the beginning. The man Ivar truly wanted was still alive, King Ælla, the ruler many believed responsible for Ragnar Lothbrok's death. In 867, Ælla and King Osbert temporarily united, hoping to retake York. For a moment, it seemed England might recover, but Ivar was waiting. The Vikings trapped the English army inside the city. Chaos erupted. The streets became battlefields. When the fighting ended, both English kings were dead. Ælla had fallen for Ragnar's sons. Their father's revenge was complete. Chapter 9, The Blood Eagle. According to the Norse sagas, King Ælla did not die an ordinary death. They describe one of the most terrifying executions in medieval history, the Blood Eagle, a ritual in which the victim's back was cut open, the ribs separated, and the lungs pulled outward like wings. It has become one of the most famous Viking legends ever told. But did it really happen? Modern historians disagree. Some believe the Blood Eagle was symbolic poetry, not an actual historical event. Others argue it may have been performed only in extremely rare circumstances. The truth remains unknown, but one thing is certain: the legend alone was powerful enough to terrify generations across Europe. Sometimes fear itself can become the greatest weapon. Chapter 10. The Vikings stopped raiding for decades. The Vikings had crossed the sea to steal treasure. Then they returned home. Ivar changed that strategy. England was no longer a place to raid. It became a place to rule. The Great Heathen Army established permanent control over vast territories. Settlements grew. Trade expanded. Viking laws spread. This land would later become known as the Danelaw. For the first time, large parts of England were governed by Norse customs. The invaders had become rulers. Chapter 11. A master of strategy. Unlike many legendary warriors, Ivar wasn't remembered because he fought the hardest. He was remembered because he thought the smartest. He used England's political divisions against itself. He attacked when kingdoms were weak. He moved before his enemies were ready. He understood logistics, supplies, timing, and psychological warfare. Centuries before modern military theory, Ivar had already mastered it. That is why, even today, many historians describe him as one of the greatest Viking commanders who ever lived. Chapter 12. The King of Dublin. After England. Historical records place Ivar in Ireland. Several scholars identify him with Eamar, the powerful Norse ruler of Dublin, although historians still debate whether they were the same person. The similarities are remarkable. If true, Ivar ruled one of the most important Viking kingdoms in Europe. His influence stretched across the Irish Sea. Trade flourished, power expanded, and the Viking world became more connected than ever before. The boy, once dismissed as weak, now commanded kingdoms. Chapter 13. The mystery of his death. Then, almost as suddenly as he appeared, Ivar vanished from history. The annals of Ulster record the death of a Norse king named Eamar in 873. Many historians believe this was Ivar the Boneless. No glorious final battle, no legendary last stand. Only a brief historical record, marking the end of one of the Viking Age's greatest minds. Yet, even after his death, his influence never disappeared. The kingdoms he helped create continued to shape Britain for generations. Chapter 14. History versus Legend. Who was Ivar the Boneless? A disabled prince. Who conquered kingdoms? A ruthless genius. Who outsmarted entire nations? Or a legendary figure? Whose story grew larger with every generation? History cannot answer every question, but it can answer one. England changed forever because Ivar existed, whether every saga is true or not. His campaigns transformed the course of British history. That is beyond debate. Chapter 15. A legacy of fear. Most conquerors wanted to be admired. Ivar wanted something different. He wanted to be remembered. More than 11 centuries later, his name still appears in books, museums, universities, and documentaries, not because he was the strongest, but because he proved that the sharpest weapon is often the human mind. The Viking Age produced many great warriors, but very few commanders. Changed history itself. Ivar the Boneless was one of them. If Ragnar inspired the dream, and Bjorn carried it across distant seas, then Ivar transformed that dream into an empire. But the story was far from over, because the Great Heathen Army would continue its march, changing England forever and leaving behind a legacy that would outlive every man who fought beneath its banners. That is the story we uncover next.